We're sending that to Take That. Ah, they've broken up. Curse. We'll have to record it ourselves. 1968, I was playing with Fairport Convention in the Roundhouse. Big venue in London. Some of you may have been there. A famous venue. And in those days, there were no seats, and you could wander around and, you know, purchase a joss stick here, a file of patchouli over there, and, you know, attend a massive day-long, night-long event to raise funds for some magazine or some worthy cause. And Fairport were there to do their spot. And at some point, I was wandering around and I heard a sound from the stage, and I was drawn by the sound, and I moved closer. And as I moved closer to the stage, I saw a tall, elegant, good-looking young man singing and playing guitar, accompanied by a friend. And I moved closer and closer, and I could hear what a lovely voice, what interesting words he was singing, and what a very, very good guitarist he was. And I stayed for the whole set. And at the end, I was so impressed, I went to the backstage area and I introduced myself. I said, "Hello, my name's Ashley Hutchings. What's your name?" And he said, "My name's Nick Drake." And I said, "Are you hoping to get on in music?" or words to that effect. And he said, "Yeah, I would like to get on in music. I'm at Cambridge University, but I want to make a living in music if I can, playing my songs." And so I said, "I think I know someone who may be able to help you." And I took a number, and we talked a bit more, and we exchanged numbers. And then the next day I rang Joe Boyd, who was a manager of Fairport and a record producer. And I said, "You've got to get this guy, and you've got to get him in a recording studio." And Joe took me up on that, and he contacted Nick, and he made the only 3 albums that Nick made in the early 70s before he was killed, before he died from an overdose of antidepressants. He was on antidepressants largely because he felt he was a failure. His music wasn't reaching people. And then you fast forward to about 10, 15 years ago, and word gets around about Nick Drake's music. And maybe you know the story that in recent years he's become massively popular, and he's now cited his albums as best albums of singer-songwriters and in the best 50 British albums ever, and things like that. And recently there was a radio and a television program about him on the same night. Brad Pitt produced the radio program, and I was in it talking about meeting him. And that night I started to write this song. I completed it with Mark shortly after, and it's called "Given Time."
There's a single star in the firmament. Now you see it, now you don't.
Possibly tall, incredibly still, he drew me closer against my will. Through the crowd, close to the stand, not really a boy, not nearly a man. That day I was lifted out of the gloom, and the cavernous roundhouse shrank to a room. A bedsit in Cambridge, a house in the sticks, wherever was home to this music of Nick's. After we chatted, success would appeal. I knew a man who could get him a deal. He was open and friendly, lent me his ear, gave me a number, moved out of my sphere.
out of my sphere, into his own, on a journey that he would travel alone. Three albums later, just a few years, a black cloud descended, confirming our fears. It covered the vision, snuffed out the light, and took many years to move out of sight. The light in the heavens is shining still. First you don't see it, but someday you will. It's the way of the world that we look to the skies, and often miss stars that are traveling by. They fall from our gaze, then move out of line. They'd be brighter later if they're just given time.